Post 1. Am I the jerk for refusing to reconcile with the mother who abandoned me? I grew up measuring time and phone calls that never came. My mother left when I was 10. She married a man from her church, moved 2 towns over, and started a new family. I remember the day in slices, like a film cut too close. Grandma holding a laundry basket against her hip, the front door closing, a red taillight at the end of the street, and then the quiet. The almost polite kind where you don't want to disturb it because there is nothing left to disturb. After that, it was school, spaghetti, and grandma figuring out how to turn an old sewing room into a bedroom for me. My mother sent one postcard the first year. It had a beach on it. No return address. Grandma worked nights at a care home and used coupons with military precision. I learned to do my own permission slips, sign up for field trips, and handwrite thank you notes so I wouldn't embarrass her. We did not have child support. The one time Grandma tried, my mother claimed she was between jobs. I found that letter when I was 16, stuffed behind tax forms, and put it back exactly where it had been, because reading it felt disloyal to the woman who chose to stay. When I was 20 and in college, Grandma got sick fast. One week she was making chicken soup, the next there were oxygen tanks in the hallway. My mother came to the funeral in a cream dress that made her look like a guest, not a daughter. She spoke at the podium about reconciliation, about God moving mountains. And when I tried to say something about the smell of Grandma's lotion and how she used to hum with the radio, the pastor cut my mic because, he said, time was short. After the burial, my mother hugged me for 2 seconds and whispered, "We will do better now." She took a plate of deviled eggs to go. I would not see her again for years. People say time heals. They don't mention how it calcifies. I built a life with edges that fit. I worked, did my classes, put money into an envelope for emergencies. I learned not to look for my mother in crowds. I also learned I am not made of stone. I cry in grocery aisles if a particular brand of tea is out of stock because Grandma bought it on sale at Christmas and called it our treat. I'm saying this because some relatives call me cold. I'm not cold. I'm tired of being a polite room for other people's mess. 3 months ago, my mother reappeared on Facebook. She launched the Grandma's Hands Scholarship with my childhood photos in a collage and a caption describing me as a girl who overcame adversity through the power of a mother's prayer. There was a donate button that funneled to her church's account. A local paper shared the post and printed my full name. I found out because my coworker, who is kind and knows none of this, left a copy on my desk with an excited note. "Is this you? This is beautiful." My hands shook. I called the church office. The receptionist told me they were proud of our family and the healing narrative. That phrase felt like a coat someone threw over my shoulders without asking. I emailed my mother and said, "Please remove my name and images. And if you want a scholarship in Grandma's name, let's do it correctly. Public ledger, joint governance, and a third-party fiscal sponsor. Or stop collecting in Grandma's name." I offered to meet with a neutral mediator and a licensed family therapist to build something accountable. I would not lend my name to a story that wasn't true. She replied, "I'm sorry you're still harboring bitterness, but this is about honoring our mother, and sometimes you have to be the bigger person." Then she called my aunt, who called me, "Men and women do what they have to. Your mother did the best she could. You're ungrateful." That phrase, "the best she could," gets used like a key for every locked door. Abandoning a 10-year-old doesn't count as best. 2 days later, a woman named Marla phoned. A church friend who introduced herself as a peacemaker. Forgiveness first, understanding later, unity is the witness. She mentioned gently that my mother has a child with severe autism and the family is stretched thin. She suggested I consider being part of the care circle, even in small ways. And would I sit on stage at the scholarship launch to model reconciliation? I asked how funds were held. She said through the church, as customary. I asked for a ledger. She said that kind of suspicion wasn't healthy, and asked if I wanted to be remembered as the person who blocked a charity in my grandmother's name. I started second-guessing myself. Maybe I was making too much of image use. Maybe I should accept the paper's blurb and move on. Then a donor update email landed in my inbox, likely because my mother used my name to solicit funds. It had a line item called Family Education and Care. That is not a scholarship. When I asked what that meant, my mother texted, "Expenses related to keeping the family functioning in service to the cause. Don't be petty about technicalities." Then the pediatric clinic listed on a separate form called They asked me to confirm I was the primary caregiver for my youngest half sibling and said they needed my signature on consents. I said I had never agreed to that. The nurse sounded embarrassed. My name was already on file. I feel like I'm back in that quiet hallway again, holding something too big for my arms. I don't hate my half sibling. I haven't met him, but I understand care is hard and constant and real. I just don't think being abandoned as a child means I owe my mother a life of unpaid labor or my name for fundraising that isn't what it says. I offered therapy and transparency. In return, I'm asked to sit on a stage and smile. So, am I the jerk for refusing to support the scholarship without a public ledger, insisting my name and photos be removed, and refusing to be listed as a caregiver for a child I never agreed to care for? Comment 1. Not the jerk. You set fair, specific conditions. If this were a real scholarship, they'd welcome transparency. Listing you as caregiver without consent is a huge boundary violation. Comment 2. Just do one supervised lunch with your mom? Life is short and the child needs help. Maybe this is a sign to put the past behind you. Update 1. Some asked for specifics, so I'll be clear. When I was 12, I had a fever that wouldn't come down. Grandma called my mother. Voicemail. She asked for insurance information. No return call. Grandma took me to urgent care and paid cash. When I was 14, I needed a graphing calculator for algebra. Grandma picked up an extra overnight and came home with the cheapest model and a grin, like she'd won a prize. That year, my mother sent a Christmas card signed from the new family with matching pajama photo. No note for me. There were no hidden efforts. Grandma did everything. After my post, the phone started again. Aunt left 2 voicemails about how I was humiliating the family by making private matters public. The second said, "Don't bite the hand that will have to feed you when your pride runs out." I saved the messages to a folder called Documentation. Paper trails help me breathe. Marla called to invite me to a peacemaking breakfast. I asked for the ledger again and whether the church had a fiscal sponsor or was a registered nonprofit for the scholarship. She sighed the way people sigh when they think you're missing the point. Our point is reconciliation. My point is accountability. If you come to breakfast and agree to sit with your mother at the launch, we can finalize details later. I said no and asked her not to contact me again unless she could email a ledger. She pivoted to my half-sibling. He's a gift. He needs a village. Your mother is drowning. I said I'm not a flotation device and I did not consent to be named as caregiver. She said bitterness was stealing my blessings. I said you're using blessings as a word for unpaid labor. The pediatric clinic called again. Different nurse. They had a release form with my printed name. I asked her to email a copy. It was not my signature. I replied that I revoke any claimed consent, that I have never agreed to be a caregiver, and that future calls about consents should go to the legal guardians. I CC'd myself, then printed the email and slid it into a folder. Small and steady, like laying a brick. I also sent my mother a detailed email. Remove my name and childhood photos from all scholarship materials within 24 hours. Any future use requires written consent. Either cease fundraising or move under a third-party fiscal sponsor with a public ledger and a board that includes me. Stop listing me as caregiver and contact the clinic and school to correct the record. I closed by offering to meet a licensed family therapist twice monthly for 6 months if she agreed in writing and stopped triangulating relatives. She replied within 10 minutes. I'm disappointed you weaponize legalese against your own family. The way you talk about ledgers and boards shows how far your heart has wandered from grace. The scholarship is a ministry. Ministries don't need corporate paperwork. Your grandmother would be ashamed. Then a separate text. The church is overwhelmed. Don't add to their burden with petty demands. An hour later, a donor update hit my inbox. New category, family education and care. The previous balance was fully allocated. Note, praise report for services rendered. I called the church office and asked what services had been rendered. The receptionist couldn't tell me. She transferred me to the treasurer, who didn't answer. I left a message. Funds raised in Grandma's name are not a personal checking account. I would be asking for a formal accounting. Meanwhile, stepfather texted a calendar invite for a care team meeting at their church. Participants, me, 2 of the teenagers, Marla, a respite coordinator. I declined and wrote in the invite, I am not a caregiver. Any claim otherwise is fraudulent. I will not attend. He texted back. All the full siblings said no. It's your turn as the eldest daughter. You owe your mother for years of sacrifice. I actually choked. Sacrifice is not abandoning a child and starting fresh 2 towns over. Then the tag happened. Aunt posted a public status. Please pray. Our family is close to a beautiful reconciliation. But certain parties cling to pride. She tagged my workplace. My manager called and asked if everything was okay. I said there was a family matter and I was handling it. She was kind and asked me to loop HR if anything spilled over. I sent HR screenshots with a 1-paragraph summary and a request to filter any posts tagging the company with my name. It felt strange to send, but the paper trail helps me breathe. I also started researching how to do this correctly. If a scholarship is real, transparency is welcome. I looked up fiscal sponsors. They handle accounting and provide a public ledger. If my mother wanted to honor grandma, she could do it cleanly this week. Instead, she texted, "Stop trying to control me with conditions. Either sit on stage and be a daughter or don't speak to me again." Not a difficult choice. I feel guilty writing this because mixed with anger is a picture of a child who didn't choose any of this. A child with needs that don't take weekends off. I don't blame him. I don't blame the teenagers who said no and went on with their lives. I blame the person trying to use my childhood as an invoice. So, am I the jerk for refusing the breakfast meeting, declining the care team invite, demanding oversight before a launch, and telling the clinic in writing that I revoke consent and won't act as caregiver? Comment 1. Not the jerk. The forged caregiver consent is a serious problem. Your written boundaries plus a paper trail are exactly right. Ministries that are legitimate don't fear ledgers. Comment 2. Breakfast isn't a trap. Meet once face to face. You're making this harder than it has to be. Update 2. I thought the workplace tag would be the peak. It was just the opening act. Aunt posted a long prayer request on Facebook with a collage of grandma's face, my mother's smiling family, and a childhood picture of me. She tagged my employer and used the scholarship link. My name appeared in comments as people urged me to honor my mother. One sentence made my stomach drop. OP is scheduled to speak next Sunday at the scholarship launch. I had declined twice in writing. I emailed HR with screenshots and a short summary. Please update social filters to catch any post tagging the company that uses my name or implies sponsorship. I added that I'll keep this off work hours and off company devices. HR replied within an hour, thanked me, added filters, and asked if I wanted security informed. Not yet, I said, but I'll update them. My mother used Aunt's comments to write a speech about forgiveness. No mention of ledgers, sponsors, or the fact that funds were already spent on family education and care. Ministry, 6 times. Scholarship, 11. Hearts and doves. I put my phone in a drawer, walked around the block, made peppermint tea, and opened a clean document titled Timeline. Dates, actions, screenshots. Who contacted whom? Row by row, it felt less like drowning and more like taking inventory. That night, stepfather texted again. All full siblings declined caregiving. Pressure on their home is not sustainable. The child loves routine. I could offer a simple Saturday routine to start. He attached a calendar with my name. I replied, I am not a caregiver. Remove my name. Do not contact me about scheduling again. He responded with a paragraph about duty and ended with, "You will regret this when you are older." I added the exchange to the timeline and muted him. 2 cousins reached out. One sent a single heart emoji. I see you. The other asked if I'd consider a 1-hour lunch in public with a neutral present. Optics to calm older relatives. I thanked both, said I appreciated quiet support, and explained I'd asked for steps that weren't being met. The cousin who suggested lunch said she understood and wished she felt brave enough to say that out loud. I told her I don't think of it as brave, just using the same rules adults use for money and caregiving. She said that is brave in our family. Marla called. I let it go to voicemail. She described a path to unity and said the launch would include a small segment on the family's special needs journey. It would be powerful if I offered a few words from the stage about honoring grandma by stepping into service. A photographer would capture the moment. She said she'd heard I was creating legal obstacles confusing donors. I saved the voicemail and replied with 1 sentence by email. Direct future communication to writing and do not use my name or image in any event materials. The next morning, a local paper ran a teaser blurb implying I was a featured speaker. My hands went cold. I emailed the editor with a short correction, attached my prior emails asking for removal, and asked for a retraction. The editor said they'd been assured by the church this was a positive family story and would verify. I sent the donor update that used family education and care, plus my written decline. Then I asked plainly to remove my name. They'd look into it. I added the email to the timeline and kept going. I wrote to the church board. I laid out dates, asked for a ledger and the fiscal sponsor's information, asked them to stop using my name, image, and to correct the listing that said I would be speaking. I copied the clinic's note about forged consent and my revocation. I kept the email calm, with bullet points and attachments. By evening, the paper added, "Speaker list subject to change." Not the correction I wanted, but not nothing. I followed up, set 2 alarms, one to email a consumer protection hotline and one to find an independent fiscal review option. I bookmarked 3 local fiscal sponsors and read their application pages. Submit a proposal, define the purpose, agree to public reporting. That's all I want. That night I called Grandma's old number, the black plastic one that lived on her kitchen wall. It goes nowhere now. The sound still calms me. I told the quiet I miss her. I'm trying to honor what she taught me. You can be kind and still say no. You can be respectful and still write things down. You can love a child you haven't met and still refuse to be coerced. Comment 1. You're doing everything right. Document. Correct the record. Ask for oversight. Listing you as caregiver and pre-announcing you as a speaker are manipulative. Keep it in writing and keep HR looped. Comment 2. Real scholarships run through fiscal sponsors or registered nonprofits with public reports. Your asks are standard. Stay firm. Update 3. I woke up to my face on a flyer. A coworker texted a photo from a cafe bulletin board. Grandma's picture in soft focus, a dove, a bold title for the launch, and under it, featuring OP, our special guest and incoming family caregiver. QR code to donate through the church account. Then a mass invitation from the church with a speaker schedule placing me after blessing the care circle. I hadn't agreed to any of this. I stopped scrolling and opened the timeline. I copied the flyer image and the email. Then I wrote 3 messages. First, to the venue manager on the flyer. I'm the person being advertised without consent. Attached are declines. Any use of my name or image must cease. I do not consent to being presented as a speaker or caregiver. Please confirm in writing the venue will not display materials that falsely list me or allow my name Bachar's likeness during the event. Second, to the local paper, attach the flyer and a 1-paragraph statement that I will not attend, that I requested a ledger and third-party oversight, and that I requested removal of my name and images. Please run a printed correction. Third, to the church board and treasurer. Cease and desist. Remove my name or images within 24 hours. Provide a complete accounting of funds raised, dates, amounts, disbursements. Identify the fund's legal status and any fiscal sponsor. Confirm in writing you will not represent me as caregiver or speaker. I added that I'd contacted the payment processor to report possible misuse and would cooperate with any review. I called the pediatric clinic. The records officer confirmed my name had been removed and guardians notified. I asked for a letter stating the correction. She sent it that afternoon. I printed it and placed it in a folder labeled clinic. I emailed the school. Stepfather had mentioned routine and weekends. I didn't want to learn later that my name had been added. The school replied my name was not on any documents and they had flagged the record against unauthorized additions. A small window opened. By lunch, the venue manager replied, "Standard community rental. They don't police content." But he'd forwarded my message to the organizer. I wrote back about liability for knowingly allowing false ads and thanked him. I sent a similar note to the cafe where the flyer was posted. Small steps, brick by brick. The paper responded next. They pulled my name from the online blurb and added a correction. OP has informed us she is not a scheduled speaker. I saved a PDF. Around 2, Marla left a voicemail. I'm choosing paperwork over people. God honors hearts that bend. The launch will be a powerful testimony with or without me. I replied by email only. Cease using my name and image. Provide a ledger. Stop representing me as caregiver. At 3, my mother texted a photo of the sanctuary in progress. Rows of chairs, a banner with Grandma's name, a lectern with flowers. Look what you're throwing away. I wrote back. Remove my name and images. Stop fundraising in Grandma's name without oversight. Stop listing me as caregiver. She replied, bitterness is a prison. I did not engage. I scheduled a legal aid consult. The volunteer attorney was calm. Keep everything in writing. Send certified letters so there's proof of receipt. Report misrepresentation to the processor and State Charity Bureau. Notify the church's insurer there's a dispute about advertising and image use. Prepare a short, factual statement for inquiries. Be clear and boring. That night, I mailed certified letters to the treasurer, board chair, and pastor. Cease use. Provide accounting. Identify legal status. Remove caregiver listings. I included printouts of the flyer and schedule. I sent copies to the venue. I filed reports with the processor and the State Bureau. The processor auto-replied with a ticket number. The Bureau sent a form for attachments. I uploaded the timeline as a PDF with redacted details for the minor child. By evening, Aunt posted again, "Hard hearts choose law over love." Someone asked for a list of scholarships awarded. No answer. I screenshotted and closed the app. 2 practical shifts steadied me. HR added a security note to my file. If Aunt or anyone shows up, the front desk calls a manager, not me. And the clinic letter stating revocation of consent arrived as a signed PDF. If anyone tries to add my name again, there's a record that I said no. I drafted a simple public statement in case of tags. I am not involved with the event or any fund using my grandmother's name. I have requested a public ledger, third-party oversight, and removal of my name and images. I am not a caregiver and have revoked any claimed consent. Please direct questions to the organizers, only what I can prove. Before bed, I looked at the flyer again. Incoming family caregiver sat under my name like a label someone tried to stick to my back. I remembered the pastor cutting my mic. Time was short, he said. It still is. I'm done giving minutes to people who confuse service with control. Tomorrow, I'll check certified mail receipts, follow up with the processor if needed, and ask the editor to consider a short piece on how real scholarships work so donors know what to look for. Not to drag anyone, to educate. If my mother wants to honor Grandma, the path is simple. Ledger, sponsor, board. Until then, my answer is no. Comment 1. Perfect handling. Certified letters, reports, clinic and school corrections, HR coordination. Keep the timeline current and let the paper trail carry weight. Comment 2. As someone who supports families with high-needs kids, thank you for saying no to being drafted. Real help is built on consent and clear roles, not pressure and public shaming. Update 4. Dinner at Aunt's was pitched as a quiet evening to remember Grandma. The invite said lasagna and stories. I stood on the walkway a second before knocking, rehearsing safe topics. The door opened to a staged room, Marla near the head of the table, a tripod in the corner, a poster board with the scholarship logo, and a printed photo of 12-year-old me in a beret I hated. My stomach dropped. Not a dinner, a set. I nearly turned around. Aunt hugged me hard and walked me in like a reluctant guest of honor. My mother stood with a practiced smile. Stepfather laid a thick folder on the chair beside my plate. He tapped it and said, "Care plan, very manageable. Saturday routine only to start." Marla said we'd begin with a moment of prayer and then a few words of gratitude. I kept my coat on. I set my phone to record and placed it face down by my water glass. My pulse was loud but steady. 1 beat for every email I'd sent, 1 for every certified letter, 1 for the clinic letter with the signature and date. Aunt dimmed the lights so the string bulbs looked soft, and my mother began. Short prayer about forgiveness and unity, then talk about the scholarship and the family's special needs journey. Stepping into our calling, she gestured toward me like a teacher introducing a student. I stood before she could say my name. Stop. Lights on. No photos, no recording. Aunt hesitated. Now, please. She clicked the switch. I looked at each face. I came because the invite said dinner to remember Grandma, not to be a prop. You planned a program, you set up a tripod, you printed my childhood photo without consent. You put a care plan on my chair. I will be very clear. Remove my name and images from all materials. Shut down the fundraiser or place it under a third-party fiscal sponsor with a public ledger and a board that includes me. Repay any diverted funds, tuition, medical bills, paid out of donations. Stop listing me as caregiver. Stop tagging my workplace. Stop calling clinics and schools with my name. Engage in family therapy with a neutral, licensed therapist for 6 months. Stop triangulating through Marla and Aunt. If you don't agree to all of this in writing within 7 days, I will have no contact with any of you. Not for holidays, not for events, not for photos. I am done. Silence. Then my mother performed sorrow like she was reading a familiar script, tissue to the corner of her eye. You are cruel and lost in legalism. The child is suffering and you want accountants. Your grandmother would be ashamed. I heard my voice calm. Grandma balanced checkbooks and counted coupons at the kitchen table. She lived inside ledgers. Accountability is not a betrayal of love. It is how love pays the bills. Stepfather slid the folder toward me. Not complicated. A signature here and we go home blessed. He pushed a pen. I didn't touch it. Remove my name from the clinic and school, I said. He snapped. You're heartless. The teenagers are no help. The church is tired. You will carry your part. You cannot draft me, I said. I was a child you left. I'm an adult who says no. Marla tried softer. Meet in the middle. Let the launch proceed as planned with a simple correction later. Script a moment to honor Grandma and revisit the ledger afterward. It would mean so much to donors to see you on stage. Donors deserve a ledger, not a staged hug, I said. Post the ledger first. Fix governance first. Then we can talk about a future event. Aunt deployed the usual line. The stress is killing me. The family cannot take this. Think of your grandmother. Think of the little one. Your pride is ruining everything. I looked at the poster board with my 12-year-old face pinned to a story I did not agree to. Pride would be pretending I believe you, I said. Respect is telling the truth out loud. The room went hot. Raised voices. Aunt saying I was breaking her heart. Stepfather saying real families don't need oversight. Marla asking me to lower my tone. My mother crying into a napkin so carefully it felt like a stage direction. I didn't match their volume. I repeated the list slowly. Remove name and images. Shut down or fiscally sponsor. Public ledger. Repay diverted funds. Stop listing me as caregiver. Stop tagging my work. Correct the paper and the flyers. Therapy for 6 months. End triangulation. Written agreement in 7 days. Or no contact. Sit and eat your dinner, Aunt said. We can work it out after grace. I'm not staying, I said. I turned the tripod toward the wall, handed the folder back unopened, and tucked the poster under my arm. My mother grabbed for it. This is mine, I said. You don't get to paste me to your program. At the door, my mother called, The law will not save you from regret. I didn't turn. The paper trail isn't for saving me, I said. It's for saving the truth. I left. I drove to a quiet parking lot and sat with the poster face down on the passenger seat. My hands shook like the first night, but the feeling was different. Not drowning, landing. I emailed myself a short memo about what happened, with the time, the names present, and what was said. I attached a photo of the poster in my car, time-stamped. I set a calendar reminder for 7 days titled Ultimatum Clock. At home, I put the poster in the back of my closet like evidence. I made tea and called Grandma's old voicemail out of habit. Of course, it didn't pick up. I whispered into the quiet anyway. I'm doing it the way you taught me. Clear, written, steady. If they want a reunion, they can meet me on the ground where real things are built. Comment 1. A masterclass in boundaries. Clear list, written deadline, no theatrics, and you left when it became performative. You honored Grandma by insisting the scholarship be real or not happen at all. Comment 2. You handled an ambush without losing your center. The list is reasonable and specific. 7 days is generous. Keep the memo and the poster. You're doing this right. Final update, 9 months later. 9 months is long enough for chaos to quiet into shapes you can name. Looking back at the week of flyers and stage dinners feels like a fever breaking. Things didn't fix themselves. Dates, letters, and small, steady actions did. Exactly what Grandma taught me at the kitchen table. Here is what happened, plainly. The State Charity Bureau opened a case, interviewed me and several donors, and requested documents from the church. The payment processor suspended the donation link and held remaining funds. The church board hired an outside accountant who couldn't reconcile disbursements with the stated scholarship purpose. My mother was charged with misdemeanor charitable solicitation fraud, and the church accepted an administrative citation for sloppy oversight. A plea was offered. My mother took it. She received probation with restitution and an order that she cannot control any charitable fund for a fixed period. Court was short, a simple allocution. She spoke softly about intentions, never actions. Afterward, she told a relative she was the victim of a smear fueled by bitterness. She hasn't admitted the basic facts to me, and I no longer stand in that courtroom in my head waiting for them. The fund dissolved. Donors were offered refunds from what the processor held. The rest became a restitution plan. A letter went to the local paper, cautious but clear enough. The paper ran a small piece explaining how to vet a real scholarship and quoted two legitimate fiscal sponsors. I printed it and tucked it in my folder behind the bookkeeper's memo. A clean epilogue for the public part. At home, I honored my own deadline. No written agreement at 7 days meant no contact. I kept it simple. If someone tagged me, I pasted a single line. I am not involved with any fund. Direct questions to the organizers. If someone called, I didn't pick up. Non-legal mail went into a box labeled archived. When An appeared once at my workplace lobby with two church friends, security followed the plan HR and I wrote. They were escorted out. There was no scene. That is my favorite sentence in this update. There was no scene. The youngest child didn't leave my mind. I asked the investigator at the end of my interview about ways to ensure he had support that didn't rely on me or my mother's church. She gave me a list of county resources and a brief walkthrough of formal services. I didn't call to check on him. It's not my lane. 3 weeks after the plea, a cousin sent a sentence. Services in place now. I sat on my porch and cried into my hands. Not from guilt, but from relief that someone finally chose a documented path instead of a stage. I moved apartments in month 4. The new place is small and bright. The living room faces a tree that turns early in fall. I hung Grandma's clock where I can hear the steady tick over the low hum of traffic. Sometimes I still dial her old number out of muscle memory. It rings and ends. I say what I need to the quiet. Then I make tea and write things down. Work is steady. The HR note remains in my file. Rarely needed, but calming. My manager says I seem lighter. I don't feel light. I feel planted. The therapy I promised myself didn't solve every knot, but it gave me a routine kinder than bracing for the next surprise. We talk about grief that doesn't want to change shape. Love that doesn't require me to set myself on fire. Some sessions are how to say no without writing an essay. Some are how to keep the essay short and send it once. The scholarship that should have been never happened, and I've made peace with that. I have a notebook of options for honoring Grandma privately. Endowments run by real organizations that accept small monthly contributions. Volunteer reading programs at the branch library where she checked out cookbooks for the pictures. I don't need a stage or a flyer to honor a woman who counted coupons with a pencil. I need a ledger in my kitchen drawer that shows a monthly transfer to a place that posts public reports. That's romance to me. Receipts are romance. My mother hasn't apologized. Last I heard, she tells people there was a misunderstanding and that I escalated out of spite. She says I hate the church. I don't. I dislike being used by anyone who confuses performance with integrity. She says I broke the family. Families aren't broken by truth. They're broken by pretending truth is rude. If she sent a short letter, I took money for a scholarship and spent it on my household. I'm sorry, I've made restitution. I won't do it again. I will never list you as a caregiver without written consent. I would read it all the way through. That letter hasn't arrived. I'm not holding my breath. People ask if I miss having a mother. I miss the kind I didn't get. I've stopped cutting my shape to fit her narrative. I'm not a prop, not a cautionary tale. I'm a person who writes things down and puts them in labeled folders because it takes less energy to prove a fact than to argue with a performance. I saw Marla in produce. She looked at me like she had a right to my face. I nodded like you do to a neighbor you can't place and kept walking. Later, she sent a short email hoping time would soften me. I replied with the smallest truth. Time didn't soften me. Time made me precise. The reply bounced. The church had closed the account she used. Grandma's grave has a new vase. I put a yellow sunflower in it and read the dates on the stone out loud. I told her about the tree outside my window and the way I've been sleeping through the night. I told her the kitchen clock still ticks like a small metronome for the life she taught me to build. It's not dramatic, not a stage. It's a balanced ledger, a door that locks. A woman who knows where she put her own name. I'm done with scenes. I'm not done with love. The consequences for my mother are real, and still she refuses full fault. That's hers to hold. The piece over here is mine. The piece over here is mine. The piece over here is mine.